Hey guys, so doing another one of these reacting videos since, yeah, you guys seem to enjoy them and they're kind of fun. It's not quite the right word. Interesting, I guess. Yeah, so for those who don't know, this is when I was still eating a raw food diet, specifically a low fat, high carb raw food diet. So essentially living on fruit. This is when I was doing the 30 bananas a day approach, Freely's program before Raw Till 4. So this is when cooked food was still evil. And yeah, so I followed this for like I think a year and a half. So eating lots of fruit, at least 2,500 calories a day, very very low fat. Less than 10% of calories from fat. Very little vegetables at all. I ate some vegetables, but not very much. It was predominantly fruit, mostly bananas. I ate lots of tomatoes. It's not really a calorie source though. I just really craved tomatoes because it was like the only savory thing I was eating. Some dates, I don't think I ever really ate that many dates on like a consistent basis. So like mostly bananas and like mangoes when I could get them when they were in season, papaya when they were somewhat cheap, right? Oh, and this is called Detox on a Low Fat Raw Food Diet. So this should be good.
When you make the switch to a raw food diet from whatever diet you were on before, you're going to have some withdrawal symptoms, similar to, say, what an alcoholic would experience giving up alcohol or someone giving up cocaine or something like that.
I'm sorry, what? Withdrawal symptoms similar to what an alcoholic goes through when they're withdrawing? Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so adorable. That's so insane though. That is so ridiculous. Again, it's this like cooked food is evil shit. And like what exactly are you withdrawing from? Like coffee? Okay, yes, coffee is a drug. And if you're drinking lots of coffee and you just go, cold turkey on it, you can have some pretty serious headaches, right? I remember giving it up when I went raw because coffee's evil, right? So I remember giving it up and I had a headache for like a straight like day or two. It wasn't super intense, but it was like, yeah, this sucks. Yeah, I mean that's a full-on drug, but even that, like, it's not like an alcoholic. Like you can literally die in withdrawal from certain drugs. Like there are literally clinics, there are hospitals that they prefer you go to withdraw there to make sure that everything's safe. And there are certain medications that they give you. Again, what exactly are you detoxing from? What exactly are you withdrawing from? Like just animal products? Like what processed food? Like what in it exactly? Like, look, I'm not saying that you can't feel differently. People can feel certain things when if they're used to eating a ton of sugar and they just go cold turkey. There are certain symptoms that you can have, but to compare it to an alcohol, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm sure it's ridiculous.
Just on a milder scale. I don't want to scare you or anything, but there will be probably some withdrawal symptoms that you'll experience.
I mean, at least I said that. At least I said on a milder scale. A milder scale. I don't want to scare you. I mean, that's good. But to even say that at all is it's like already so heavy on the fear mongering. But I mean, this is what I believed. It's not like I was lying to like scare people into it. It's like I really believed this stuff. So
Mucus, release of a lot of mucus, especially if you're giving up grains or milk, dairy products, cheese, milk, things like
what? Maybe that's a thing with milk and giving up dairy. I honestly have no idea. I've heard that before. I think there's like isn't there like a mucusless diet or something like that? Maybe that's a thing, that eating dairy increases your like phlegm production or something. I honestly have no idea. But the grain thing, I mean, what? That's not a thing with grains, I don't think. I kind of remember these claims vaguely. I'm sure, Doug Graham, 80-10-10 guy, I'm sure he made the claims and other people as well. But yeah, it's interesting when you go back and look at where these things originate. It's always from like the 1800s or earlier, right? Or like the early 1900s, like at the latest. It's just some crazy person, or it's what was thought at the time. Sometimes that's the case too, right? Like I did that video on periods and raw food claims regarding losing your period. And like some raw foodists still believe this idea that we should that we should essentially have an estrus cycle like many other animals do. And so we should actually absorb the lining of the uterus. When we don't get pregnant, that we should just absorb that material instead of expelling it and having a period. And that used to be believed. That used to be the theory, but it was discarded like a long time ago, right? When we came across new information. And yet they just still believe this because it fits in with their preconceived notions, their worldview, right? So you find this a lot when you go back and look at these old claims. It's like the enzyme stuff. I think I have a video on that actually, going through the enzyme nutrition book or some enzyme diet or something like that. It's just all these weird claims, and it's relying on these studies and information that go back decades, right? Again, to like the early 1900s, late 1800s. It's really interesting. Like in order to support their claims, talking about raw foodists, like they have to go back really far, right? Because if you rely on current day evidence and like current day advancements, like you can't support it. It just doesn't work. I mean, you can try and cherry pick to a degree, but it's really hard with raw food diets to even do that, because again, there's just so much information on like, hey, beans are really good for us. Hey, a certain amount of protein is good for us, right? Which is pretty hard to get on a raw food diet. You could do it, I guess, if you're eating enough nuts and seeds and whatnot, but it's gonna be incredibly expensive at that point. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Man, that little hair is bugging me so bad. I just want to push it over, but I know even like it's just not gonna stay, right? It's just one of those little hairs that's not gonna stay. It was funny too. The last video I was making fun of my old self and my weird hair, and I noticed that my hair in that video, like the me now, or like 2 weeks ago when I recorded that, it's like my hair looks really, really bad actually. So it's really funny. I'm like, gosh, my hair looked like such shit, and my hair looked so bad. My bangs were just too long, and like with the glasses, they were kind of pushed to the side, and then I'm missing some hair because I was pregnant, and postpartum you sometimes lose hair. It's very common, typically like around here, which has been my case. So when the bangs got too long and they were pushed to the side, it just looked like super, super bad. So it just came across really funny. While I was editing, I was almost like, I should just take this out of it because it looks ridiculous, but then I thought it was funny, so I was like, well, I'm just gonna leave it in.
So everyone detoxes every second of every day. Detoxification, I got it, is a natural part of the human body. It's what our livers are supposed to do. If it's been 6 months and you're still experiencing the same sort of detox that you experienced when you first went raw, you're probably doing something wrong. It's probably not detox, it's just there's something wrong with your diet.
Okay, so I mean, I am right there. Yeah, we do, our livers and kidneys and everything do a pretty good job of like filtering out stuff, right? And again, there is a difference between that and withdrawal detox from like caffeine. And look, if you gave up caffeine 6 months ago and you're still having symptoms that you think are attributed to the caffeine, I mean, there might be something going on there. But again, talking about it from like a cooked food or animal product standpoint, I don't even know exactly. Like, what exactly have you given up that is causing you problems? Again, I'm not saying that if you stop eating a really shitty diet cold turkey that you're not going to have some sort of symptoms. Like, you may have some headaches, you may feel a little bit fatigued if you were used to eating a ton of sugar and now you're not, right? Or if you're eating a healthier diet and getting less calories, like you may feel a little bit bleh for a few days. That's totally possible. But this idea that you're withdrawing and that it's somehow similar to again like alcohol or drugs or something is just like so silly. And again, it's one of those things, whenever you see these detox products, like what exactly are they doing? Like what exactly are they removing? How exactly are they cleaning you out? If these people can't answer these questions, it's a scam. And I do remember, because there used to be a split within like the raw food community. There was like the regular raw foodists, I guess, the like high fat, I think I think I would call them like the gourmet raw foodists, right? They would eat all these gourmet recipes that were like super, super high fat, lots of nuts, lots of oils, and lots of salt. And then there was the rest of us, the really healthy raw foodists, right? The low fat raw foodists that didn't eat all the fat and the salt and everything. And so there were different claims, like the higher fat raw foodists. Again, there was no like real split, but there were, people eat raw in different ways, just like people can eat vegan in different ways. But there were lots of people who believed in like the enzyme theory stuff, and that raw food is living food, and if you eat cooked foods, it depletes your enzymes and all this kind of stuff. And then there was like the low fat crowd that was like, no, that's bullshit. Actually, your stomach acid destroys the enzymes, which is closer to the truth, actually. So, but this was another one of those claims you would hear raw foodists say, like, oh, well, you feel bad and it's been 6 months or a year since you started raw. Oh, well, you're still just detoxing. Don't worry about it. Whereas some of us were like, well, no, if you still feel bad, like maybe something's wrong. Now, it was wrong to think like, oh, it's all the fat in your diet that's making you feel bad. It's like, no, maybe it's because you're eating a stupid raw food diet. Maybe eat some beans and you'll feel better, right? Like maybe eat a more appropriate balanced diet and you'll feel better. Don't start eating more fruit and less nuts. Like that's not the answer. It's the blind leading the blind is what I'm saying. It's very sad.
So a common one, people say, oh, it's been, months and I'm still really fatigued, or I'm still really dizzy, or I just feel weak all the time, and, I know I'm just detoxing and it'll go away on its own. Well, most likely the reason is that you're just not eating enough calories. I see this all the time.
This is the same thing. I think I did a response to Fully Raw Christina where she was talking about people failing on a raw food diet, and then I kind of gave my history and talked about why I failed, quote unquote, on a raw food diet, really saying that it was a raw food diet that failed me and everyone else, right? Because it's not a healthy way to eat. Again, I'm sure you can make it healthy. You can tweak it in such a way that you can meet all of your needs. But it's, why would you do that? There's no reason to do that. But that's essentially what she says is calories, right? As long as you get enough calories, you're fine. And, it's very compelling. It's very appealing that all you need to do is eat enough calories and you'll be fine. And look, we see non-raw foodists do this too. We see non-raw vegans do this. Like the low-fat crowd in particular that for some reason just doesn't want to acknowledge protein. Like it's like we can't help but go to extremes. Either we're obsessed with protein, you got to get 150 grams a day, right? Or 200 grams a day, or you have to eat animal products. That's the only way you can get protein. You can't get enough amino acids from a vegan diet. Or it's like, no, protein doesn't matter. I've never seen a protein deficiency in the modern world, so don't even worry about it. And it's like, well, but maybe there's a middle ground. Maybe there's a middle ground where we can say, yeah, sure, we don't need 200 grams of protein, but maybe like 30 grams of protein isn't enough, and maybe just living on rice, like maybe that's not an optimal diet. That's the common thing. Like even a 2,000 calorie diet of rice provides enough protein. It's like, yeah, but it's still low on lysine, which is an essential amino acid. So that's not, it's not something that we should completely dismiss. Like it's actually pretty easy to create a vegan diet that is not adequate in protein. It may be adequate in overall protein, but it's not going to be adequate in certain amino acids. Particularly if you are following a more low-fat, high-carb diet and you're not focusing on beans, which like it sounds silly, like who's doing that? But there are actually people doing that. If you are following like Starch Solution, McDougall, maybe he doesn't anymore, but I know he used to say like don't eat too many beans. Like I think he used to limit beans to like 1 cup a day because he was worried about like kidney disease or kidney failure or something ridiculous like that. So if you're eating a low-fat diet, you're barely eating any nuts and seeds, you're mostly eating like potatoes and rice and some fruits and vegetables, and you're not eating very many beans, that is pretty much a recipe for, I'm not saying you're gonna get quackashore or whatever it's called, the protein deficiencies that we see in developing countries that literally, that kills people, but to think that you're eating optimally, like you're going to be as healthy as you could be, not getting enough of a certain essential amino acid is ridiculous. Like we do know that protein consumption is correlated with like stronger bones. I think Ginny Messina talked about this, just saying like, look, okay, no, we're not saying that people eating a vegan diet are going to be like totally deficient in protein. That's ridiculous. But we're just saying that maybe getting a little bit more protein and actually kind of focusing to some extent on protein rich sources like beans and quinoa and all this kind of stuff, that like maybe that's a good thing, and maybe it has more benefits over eating like a low fat, high carb diet that is lower in protein. How did I even get off on that tangent? I don't even know. Like what inspired that exactly? Oh, the calories thing. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, I guess I was just talking about going to extremes, and you know, it's very compelling to have this just simple, like, no, just eat low fat, high carb and you're good, right? Or just eat enough calories and you're fine and you'll meet all your needs and you don't have to worry about protein or anything else. And it's like, meh, maybe it's a little bit less sensational than that and a little bit more complicated than that. And look, a little bit less appealing, right? I mean, no one wants to hear that, like, yeah, eat beans, eat grains, eat fruits and vegetables, exercise, maintain a healthy weight, like limit your stress. Like, it's all the stuff that we've heard for years pretty much, right? And like, it's boring, and it's not going to guarantee that you don't become disease ridden and that you don't die at an early age or you get Alzheimer's or cancer or heart disease or whatever else. Like, it's incredibly boring and depressing in a way, right? That like, we can't prevent all of these things. Yes, we can lower our risk, and yes, that's really important if we care about ourselves and we care about our family and we care about being on this world as long as we can and doing good for as long as we can. But at the end of the day, I mean, we can't guarantee anything, and that's just not very satisfying.
And usually eating way too much fat.
That's the other thing, right? It's like, too few calories, too much fat. That's it. Those are the two things. So if you're having other problems, well, you just don't exist, right? If you're doing those, no, I'm eating enough calories, no, I'm not eating too much fat, and I'm still having these problems, well, go away. You're affecting my worldview and making me feel very uncomfortable, so you don't exist anymore.
It's not detox. You know, you need to take a look at.
Oh, my doggy. Oh, that was Bean Dip. When did I say that? This was 2010, so she was still, she was senior. Yeah, she was pretty old, but still had several more years in her. She died in 2014. We had to put her down. She was struggling, and it's a tough thing. You know, it's so hard to tell. Sometimes it's not hard, but sometimes it is hard. You know, she had been declining, really declining for a good several months. But, you know, we were still going on walks like a month before she died. You know, she was still eating okay. You know, it just didn't seem time yet. But, you know, as soon as it was time, it was like, oh, we waited a little too long. And that's a terrible fucking feeling. That is the worst feeling. But yeah, she was a really good, really, really, really sweet dog. She lived a long time, 16 years, I think, over 16 years. So
don't go 100% raw right away. Transition. And this is something that I recommend to practically everyone, because it makes going raw so much easier as long as it takes you, as long as you want to take. And I think that's a lot easier. And your detox, depending on how slowly.
I mean, yeah, that's fine advice. I mean, I would probably say the same for transitioning to a vegan diet. You know, I don't think most people are going to do very well going cold turkey, and I think that kind of, for some people, may set them up for binging and whatnot if they're prone to that. I mean, it's one of those things. I think the people who tend to want to do those things are already prone to those things and maybe have done those things in the past. Me. Yeah, but I'm not saying that if you go cold turkey, you're gonna binge and you're gonna become, like, you know, bulimic or something like that. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying I think for most people it's probably gonna be more difficult to do that. I don't think very many people are able to do that. So it's probably a good idea to recommend just taking it slowly. And I mean, how you choose to do that is totally up to you. I guess that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I don't think that was as exciting or as funny, I guess, as the first video, but I think it's interesting, and I think you can kind of see, you know, I wasn't super fanatical at this point. I had calmed down a lot because in 2010, I mean, I had been let's see, I got interested in the raw food diet in like 2007. So it had been a few years. So I had calmed down a lot. Of course, I'm experiencing the weight gain at this point. I'm not sure how I felt about it at that point, to be honest. I can't really remember. At this point, I may have still been okay with everything. But after a while, it was like, okay, this is not working. I am fat and uncomfortable, and I have terrible digestion because I'm just full of food all the time, and I don't like to exercise because I'm just so heavy. It's not like fun anymore, and I just like feel bad. Something's wrong. And then I started eating more greens and whatnot, having like a huge salad, ridiculous salad every single day, with nuts. So I started eating more fat, still eating very low fat. I was eating like 10%, just under that every single day. So I would make a dressing of like, avocado mixed with stuff, nuts blended up mixed with stuff, and just, again, huge bowl of greens. I started eating a little bit of seaweed, started eating some dulse flakes, put carrot in it, all this kind of stuff. So that made such a huge difference, just eating more greens. I think just getting more minerals and stuff, and getting just more variety in the diet. And I started to lose weight like really immediately. Like within a few days, I had already lost a lot of weight because I went from eating like 2,500 or 3,000 calories a day to like, I think 1,800, 2,000 calories a day. So yeah, I lost a lot of weight pretty quickly and started to feel better pretty much immediately. So not advocating for that diet either. Again, that diet was not perfect by any means. I'm still eating pretty low protein and low iron and stuff like that, but it was enormously better than the way I was eating, right? Than eating like 99% fruit, right? Yeah, so I guess that's it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got a few other videos here that are kind of short, so I may try to do another one real quick, and I don't know, that may be it. This may be kind of burning out now. This may not be interesting anymore. I feel like I'm just gonna start saying the same things over and over again. Like, yeah, it's stupid. You're stupid. That's just not, I don't know, I don't think that's very interesting, but let me know. And of course, comments, questions down below. Subscribe, Patreon. You can support the channel at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. Thank you so much to everyone who does support the channel. Anyway, thank you again, guys, and I'll have a new video soon.